Milik Hockey is your leading provider in ball hockey equipment and proud sponsor of the National Ball Hockey League. Milik has been around for 50 plus years, pioneering the sport of off-ice hockey, creating the iconic orange ball, which is the most used and recognized ball around the world. Milik's 811 and 814 hockey nets are the perfect tool to help hone your skills at home. The 811 is a full-size regulation steel goal, while the 814 is a little smaller at 52 inches for the younger players. Both are steel and durable, and if taken care of properly, will last you for years. To check out the 811 and the 814 nets and all the other products Milik has to offer, head over to Milik.com and use promo code Commish Chat at checkout for 15% off. Once again, that's promo code Commish Chat, COMMISHCHAT, at checkout for 15% off.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Commish Chat Podcast. I'm Anthony Sanrocco, NBHL Commissioner, joined by TJ Janus and Gianni Sanrocco as we take you through the league. TJ, how we doing?
Eliminated from playoffs, Milik Cup contention.
You're one of us.
Second straight year. It's okay. Yeah, now we're all together.
It'll make our lives easier when the Milik Cup comes around.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that first year with me and you playing in the Milik Cup, I think was, I felt so overwhelmed.
I was so sore and just exhausted that weekend. Yeah.
But, well, now we're all losers, so we won't be playing. And I guess before we get into any stuff we have to talk about this whole Vengeance Tropics situation, which has been one of our most viral, talked about, discussed things I've ever witnessed from I don't know. I mean, after it was announced, I got texts from all over the country asking me about this ruling and how it happened. And I feel like at this point, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know what happened, I feel you got to be a pretty big diehard of ball hockey to be listening to this podcast. So you probably know what happened, but we'll just summarize it quickly here. And so basically, Massachusetts Tier 2, we're in the semifinals, and we have the number 1 seed A-Town Tropics playing the number 4 seed Mass Vengeance. And game 1, the Tropics had won 8-0. Technically, they won 9-0 because all games ended in 8-goal differential, but they scored another goal because they kept going. So game 1, Tropics win big. Going into game 2, we're about midway through the second, and it's 2-0 Tropics. And a player on Vengeance takes a minor penalty. On his way to the box, he gets a game misconduct for or not a game, just a misconduct for verbal abuse of official. So obviously that player cannot serve both penalties. Someone has to go in the box to serve that minor penalty, so someone can leave the box when that penalty is finished. But that did not happen. No one went in to serve that penalty, so it was only the player who had the misconduct in the box. And this power play is going on, Tropics have possession, and you see on the video, the Vengeance players start pointing to the box and are saying hey, we need another player we need someone in the box to come out for our player. And the play just continues. The penalty expires. No one hops on the rink when it expires, and then 1 second after it expires, the Tropics score a goal. That goal put them up 3-0. Vengeance started saying that the goal shouldn't count. Tropics said that it should count. And then the director came on the rink and ultimately decided to overrule the goal, take it off the board, and continue play from 2-0. And, that game ends. The captain of the Tropics, he meets with the director after, says, I'm protesting that game. And, they had a doubleheader that day. They had 2 games. So they still played game 3. And did I even mention the Vengeance won that game 3-2?
No.
So backing up a little bit, it was 2-0 Tropics at the time of the goal that got taken off. Tropics end up losing 3-0. Vengeance scores 3 goals in a row to win that game 3-2. So they lose by a goal with a goal taken off the board. So that leads to their captain meeting with the director after the game, protesting the game. Like I said, we have 2 games this day, so they play game 3. Tropics end up winning game 3, 4-3. So Tropics are eliminated. Vengeance wins the series 2-1. They come back, after losing game 1, and it's a It's a win. It's a series win. And with the protests, a lot of conversations were had, and it led to an appeal / protest going to USA Ball Hockey, and their ref tech committee met for hours. They were on a call till about 1 a.m. discussing this. And, that's the USA Tech Committee where I wasn't on this call. And I got made aware in the morning. They're like, just so you know, we're going to send you a write up on our findings here, but we're going to recommend or, play a redo the game. So like, okay. And they sent me this document. It was, like I said, 4 pages long. It outlined every detail of the situation, what rules were enforced, what rules weren't, and they recommended that the game get replayed. And basically, the ruling was based on the fact they said that a decision made by a ref in a game, it is final. If they make an error, it is still final. It cannot be overturned. It cannot be reversed. It cannot be appealed. So what they said the error was found was that the game got overturned by an official who was not on the floor for that game. So that it's not,
That's the essence of it.
Yeah, and we played games this weekend, and there was a couple controversial calls, and people were saying, we're appealing, and we're like, it's just making sure people understand that the appeal reestablished the rule that a decision made by the ref is final. Whatever happens on the rink is final. Even if they make errors are going to happen. That call will stay. And I guess since it was overturned, they ended up overturning the goal getting waved off. And it led to this game being replayed. And, the game gets replayed. And now the Tropics win 6-1. So Tropics now advance to the finals. They get their spot at the Milet Cup. And Vengeance is eliminated. Their season is over. And controversially, it's not the way that we like for things like this to happen. We try very, very hard throughout the off season, throughout the season, just to make sure that we're enforcing our rules and we have a very thorough rule book. And things happen that are outside of that, and this is one of them. Like the whole rule, like there are rules that are in this, but the overall situation is completely unprecedented. It's unlike anything that's ever happened. And I mean, I've been playing ball hockey since I was 5 years old, so it's been a long time, and never seen anything like this happen. I mean, have you guys? I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. So it sucks. And what we decided, and we had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about this, and we decided to extend the Milet Cup invite to the Vengeance, just to, I guess, even the score a little bit. It just feels morally right, because all of this stuff, they feel like they won their series, and they have the right to think that. And the Tropics feel like they were robbed of their series, and they have the right to think that as well. So, the Tropics got their justice with the game getting redone, and they got their spot in the championship. They got their spot at the Milet Cup, and now Vengeance, this, is justice for them, where they at least get to compete at the Milet Cup, come Jersey, and compete for their spot to win it all. So Vengeance are coming. They've accepted the invite, and I don't know. It's just been brutal, honestly, and I just hope we never have anything like this happen ever again. It has been, it definitely took a hit on just the workflow of the week. Like, things got missed and things weren't done because there was so much time dedicated to this. And I don't want us to come off looking like we're stubborn here. Like we definitely, like, we did the right thing. We knew we stand by every single thing that happened. Like we can't say for 100% that everything was handled the right way, but we did it the best way that we could. We did it the way that we thought made sense, and with the way that we had our rules written at the time. And it's something like, I mean, every offseason we talk to directors, we send out a survey, we talk to a lot of people about what rules need to be updated, what things need to be added. And this is going to be addressed. We've come up with a few ways already on how we plan to address it, but obviously we're not going to say anything now because we want to make those as thorough as possible. But it'll be addressed in the off season, and it's just an unfortunate situation. We know it upset a lot of people, and we apologize to everybody that this was, just in general. I just feel like we owe a general apology for all this because it's been rough. Like it sucked, and but unless you guys have anything to say, I'm ready to let's just move past this and talk about all the good stuff that's happening in the league.
Yeah, we'll see him at the Cup. We'll see the Vengeance there, and 3 teams from Mass. Definitely different, but they'll be there. And yeah, I don't know if you have anything else, G, but I think we should move on to Draftville. Baby.
Yeah. Although I thought first we want to read through the Facebook comments on all of our statuses about this. Right, we're going to go through each one and just address them individually before we move on.
So pull up Ronnie Wilson's Facebook page to see what he's got. Oh my God. Hopefully never again. So we'll see what Vengeance does at Milet Cup.
Coming with a vengeance.
Yeah, right. Coming with a vengeance.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Talk about Draftville. So Draftville, we opened up registration. NBHL players got their first, shot at getting spots there. So now we're going to open it up to non-NBHL players. So we're getting close to filling out these rosters. Tournament looks awesome. I think we're up to like 18 divisions represented at this point, plus a few non-NBHLers signed up prior to us allowing them, and we're going to allow them to play already because we're just making this rule happen. So we're going to grandfather them into the rule. So it's going to be it's going to be people from all over. Different. We've got tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3. We got women's tier. Name a division. There's pretty good chance they're going to be in there. So it's going to be cool, but open it up a little bit more to get some more people in there.
We're opening it up now. I mean, how many people have you seen on social media or comments saying, hey, I want to play in this, but we don't have a division here, or, something along those lines. So, hopefully if you're one of those people, maybe you'll sign up, meet some people, and, who knows, it could lead to a division in your area potentially. So I think it's another, I don't know, it could help the league grow, help players find more players, and, divisions get formed. So it's another way to look at it.
Yeah, it's a building block. And there's a lot of new divisions that we are targeting this off season that don't play in the NBHL that have expressed very real interest. And I think this could be, a good opportunity for those players to kind of get their feet wet and see what the NBHL atmosphere is like.
Exactly.
So Draftville, registration still ongoing. Sign up while you can. And now we'll move on to our premier event, Milet Cup. And past 2 weeks since our last podcast, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, like 12 to 15 teams qualify for this tournament at this point. Or no, I'm sorry, since our last podcast. So, I mean, tier 3 right now is almost completely settled. We only have one more tier 3 that has to decide who wins. That's Indiana, and they'll figure that out this weekend. So 8 of those 9 teams are clinched. 5 of those 8 teams wear white jerseys, so that's going to be a fun little dilemma that we have to get some new jerseys for those teams. But tier 1, we've now got 4 teams that have advanced, and it's the same 4 from these divisions as last year, oddly enough. So Buffalo tier 1, we've got the 7-1-6ers, and they finished in first in regular season for the 3rd year in a row, got into the playoffs, and they had a really rough first game of their playoff. They lost 1-0 in overtime to the Nickel City Smoke. Looked like Smoke were, they came to play. They might have been taking their shot. And games 2 and 3 were this past weekend, and the 7-1-6ers, they won both of them. I think it was 5-0 and 5-3. So they came to play. They earned their spot. They're coming back. And I mean, last year they got all the way to the semifinals, and they lost in overtime to the Dogs. It was a pretty ridiculous game, if you guys remember. It was I forget, it was just I felt like every 2 minutes there was a goal. Like it was a high scoring game. And then towards the end of the game, it started getting all windy. It started drizzling a little bit. It got, damp on the rink. It was honestly just a chaotic game. But Dogs came out on top.
Yeah, the Johnny Ruiz overtime winner.
Yeah, he banked it off the goalie from behind the
Yep.
net.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I remember now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, oddly enough, not to start off on the Daredevils making the Miley Cup on a negative note, but they also lost to a New Jersey Tier 1 team in the Miley Cup last year to the Hawks. That's who they got eliminated by in the quarterfinals. But the Daredevils, they are coming back to the Miley Cup. They were the 3 seed. They were matched up against Rose City, and Rose City, I'd say, was probably the favorite going into the series. And Daredevils swept them. They came, they played they played their most complete hockey of the year. They just, when it mattered, they put it together and they played awesome and had a nice 2-0 series sweep. I know, not to make excuses for Rose City, I know they had some players at Canadian Nationals and players that were unable to make the games, but nonetheless, the Daredevils won when it mattered, and they're coming back. They're excited and happy to have some Canadian representation again. I guess we're going to get that no matter what between them and Rose City. But Daredevils had a good year last year, but I'm sure they'd like to build on what they did at the Miley Cup last year. So we'll see. 716ers, Daredevils coming back. And then, so Jersey Tier 1, we've got the Marlton Dogs returning, and we've got the Belmar Hawks returning. And both had their semifinal series go to Game 3. Dogs, they went down 1-0 in Night's Watch. They lost 3-2. Game 2, they won, was it 5-3, I think?
5-3,
Yep.
yeah.
And then they had their deciding Game 3, which was a late one. We had it indoors. There was the storm. It kind of threw a wrench in the original plan of the, being at the same rink, but it all worked out, and the Dogs won 6-1, or 6-2, I'm sorry.
I'll say they parallels with the 716ers a lot. They go down, they returning champs go down early in the first game to a, up and coming team like the Night's Watch. And then, it's on the line. Games 2 and 3, they come back out and take care of business.
Yeah. Dogs looked really, really good in that Game 3. It was some of the best hockey I've seen from them all season, honestly. They just looked like they wanted it more than I've seen them.
Yeah. I feel like the Dogs are always like iffy during the regular season. And then as we get to, end of the season and playoffs, they always just ramp up and go crazy. So
Yep.
It's typical.
Yep. And then the Hawks, they beat the Caribou 2-1, TJ.
Yeah, it happened.
It's a great
I think
series.
I predicted on the last one that we would win, but we didn't. So tough. But yeah, no, we dropped Game 1, and then we had the doubleheader, and we actually played really, really good that second game, and
They
then
dominated Game
3.
2.
Yeah, Game 3 later that night, just completely different game. I don't know what happened, but yeah, credit to the Hawks. They got it done, and they're going back to the cup.
Yeah, I mean, Hawks have Matt Barada in net, who's a stud. They've got Alec Myers on D, who's one of the best in the whole sport, and they're a good squad. I mean, them and the Dogs, 716ers, Daredevils, like all 4 teams are, they earn their spot. They deserve to be here for sure, and no surprises at all. I think the biggest surprise that's catching people off guard is the fact that our Tier 1 format is a little different at the Miley Cup this year. We've learned that people don't typically read our full rule book, and this is one of those things that I guess people have glossed over. But basically, in years past, all the teams in Tier 1 have made it to Sunday for the Miley Cup. And what we changed up this year was now we made, there's 8 teams that'll be in the Miley Cup at Tier 1. So the 4 division champions will be in a bracket, and the 4 division runner-ups will be in a bracket. The division champs will play round-robin games on Friday and Saturday, just against the other champions. The runners-up will play in a round-robin Friday, Saturday, just against the other runners-up. Then we get to the playoffs Sunday, and the champions, regardless of how they did, are going to be seeded 1 to 4 for the playoffs. Then the runner-ups are going to be seeded 5 to 8 for the playoffs. And the 7 and 8 seeds are going to be eliminated. So 1 and 2 seeds will get the bye, 3 will play 6, 4 will play 5, 7 and 8 will not be in the Tier 1 playoffs. And, we did this for multiple reasons. But I think a big one was we were hearing quite often that teams didn't really care about winning their division. They were just like, we got to the Miley Cup, we didn't care about winning, so we need to, we want that division championship to matter, and this puts a little more stake on winning that, and also will make some pretty insane matchups at the Miley Cup. I mean, no matter what, who plays who in Tier 1, it's going to be pretty insane, but I think this only adds to that and makes it better. So it'll be interesting. We'll see how it plays out, obviously. But yeah, a little different format, but same teams coming back so far. But we still got Pittsburgh and Massachusetts to see who's coming from them to come try to get this Miley Cup from the Penn Hills Imperium.
Yeah.
Now, in Jersey Philly women's tier, we watched the Marlton Cavalry win the first championship for them. And they had a dominant season. They lost. They lost one game in the regular season?
One game in, I don't know. It wasn't in regulation. It was either overtime or a shootout.
And, playoffs, they played the Deck Queens in their semifinal round, who they won the division last year. Beat them 1-0, and then they faced the South Jersey Genos in the finals, and the Genos are stacked. They've got some women's national team players, and they're a very good team, and they handle them 3-0. They've got Jasmine Martinez, who I think has been just dynamite for that team. Like the whole season, she's been like just amazing. And then Drew Pecora, who is a field hockey player, just playing ball hockey for the first time. She had the game-winning goal in both their playoff games. It's pretty amazing. And then they have Adele King in net, who was outrageous all season. I think she let up, it's either 2 or 4 goals, I forget, but she barely let up any goals all season. And it's just a team they've got depth. They've got, 2 to 3 lines that can all play, and they're going to represent Jersey well at the Miley Cup. So the Marlton Cavalry, we got 2 Marlton squads coming to Marlton.
I'm rooting for the Cavs, baby. Let's go Cavs.
Hopefully they'll get a big hometown fan base coming out them to watch. I know every time the Dogs would play the last 2 Miley Cups, a lot of the Marlton fans will come out. So, the Cavalry should bring that same kind of fan presence.
And now moving to Tier 2, we've got Buffalo Tier 2, the Grim City Reapers, one of the 2 teams who are making their mark, first Miley Cup. And last year they went by the Killer Bees. They finished in 6th. They lost to the Mob early in the playoffs in Buffalo, and they had a lot of work to do. And their captain Charles, he said, "Give me a year. We're going to make a team that's going to compete." And he did that. They pulled in some new players, some ice hockey players, some non-NBHLers from last year, and they completely revamped their team, and they've been awesome. They've been just they were in first place for a lot of the year. Then Where it got really hot late, and they ended up overtaking that number 1 spot. But this Reapers team. And even Wear It, I think Buffalo Tier 2 has a lot to prove at the Miley Cup. Last year they finished as the bottom 2 seeds, and I think that both these teams are in the mindset like we're not letting that happen again. So Reapers, they look good, and then Wear It started off a little slow. I guess that's kind of how they do things. They did this last year too, and heated up at the right time, and now they swept their semifinal matchup, and they've got the Reapers. So this series will start this weekend. Where it obviously they came to the Miley Cup last year, so they kind of know what they're getting into. But
I hope the Grim City Reapers, I think they had a mascot. I hope he shows up to the Miley Cup.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, we need one. The Daiquiris aren't in the league anymore.
Yeah.
They had the best mascot, and I mean, as of right now, I'd say in NBHL history. That is not coming back.
Yeah.
Are there any other?
I mean, Buffalo looked insane all season, so hopefully they bring the fans, bring the mascots. We'll see.
Do any other the teams that have made it so far have mascots? Do we know? I don't think so. Off the top of my head.
Not that I can think of, no.
The Dogs have their pseudo mascot of all their families just bring their family dogs, if that counts.
Yeah, that's probably the closest thing we have to it. I don't think anybody else has one. So, yeah, Reapers, if you're listening to this, please bring the mascot. Please.
He's going to be walking around with like a mask on and just not saying anything to anyone all weekend.
You got to stay in character the whole time.
Exactly.
Give him what? what, like 30 plus hours wearing that mascot or wearing that costume over the weekend. Yeah, that'll be fun. Other tier 2, so Southside Rats pulling off a huge upset. And depending on how you look at it, it's not the craziest upset because the Rats have a lot of players from the Chicago Southsiders who've played in the Miley Cup for the past 2 years in the Chicago division. So they're a very good team, but this Chicago Snipers team this year has just been amazing. They didn't let up a goal for like months, and they got to the playoffs, and teams I think stepped up their game because the Snipers lost a game in the semifinals, and they, won that series to get to the finals and play this this Rats team. Lose game 1, game 2 they win 2-0. Game 3 goes to overtime 0-0. Eddie Urban gets the ball in the slot. I think he goes 5-hole.
It's tough to tell from the video.
And then he, runs and jumps on the boards, leaps up there. It's pretty awesome. And the Rats pulled it off. And I believe they had 3 overtime wins in the playoffs. Because both their wins over the Raiders in the semifinals were in the overtime. And then this game 3 was overtime too. So they,
overtime warriors.
Yeah, I guess they if you're facing them in Miley Cup, don't put them in overtime because it sounds like they're going to win.
Yeah, I think I saw Eddie Urban or the Rats Instagram account posted a picture of him like all bloody with, the division championship hat on. And I was like, oh, wow. Like I was just surprised. So, I mean, it's not that surprising, like we said, but just how good that Snipers team has been all season. I was kind of, I guess, shocked at first, but Eddie Urban can do, what Eddie Urban can do.
Yeah. That's the beauty of like the playoffs here in this league is it's, 3 10-minute periods. And that was a 0-0 game going to overtime. So, if your goalie just stands on his head for 30 minutes, that's all you need. And that's what happens sometimes here. And that's what happened in that game.
And then, we can dive into Mass Tier 2 a little bit. So we talked about Vengeance, talked about Tropics a little bit, but we all know Tropics, they, undefeated regular season, pretty dominant first place team. We have this whole controversial thing with them and Vengeance, but Tropics, Vengeance, both coming to Miley Cup. So they're not matched. They won't be matched up in prelims, but they could meet up in the playoffs. And I mean, we've had people say that those two teams should play game 5. Well, it could happen in the playoffs and at Miley Cup. So
and the Warriors, I think we talked about. Did we talk? Were they already clinched? No,
I don't think they were.
Yeah.
But the Warriors, they ended up sweeping the Norsemen.
That's right.
And getting that spot, the other spot in the finals in Massachusetts Tier 2. And the Warriors are another team that started off slow. I think they went 0-2 their opening weekend, and they got really hot and played great after that. And with this whole game being redone, they had to sit a week. And instead of sitting a week, they actually practiced at the rink prior to that game and then hung out and watched that Tropics Vengeance replay, which is, I don't know, just pretty cool that they got to practice it. I don't think there's too many teams having mid-season practices in the NBHL. Maybe a few, but it's not too commonplace. And getting one in right before your finals has to be a pretty good move.
And Casey's on that team, right? Casey Cormier,
yep,
staff member playing in the Cup.
Yep.
So congrats, Casey.
Yeah. And Philly Tier 3 was a very dramatic day. We have the Jersey Dinos, number 1 seed going into the playoffs, have a wild Saturday leading to them getting clinched and clinching the playoff spot because they're the number 1 seed. They get matched up against the 8 seed, the Philadelphia Berserkers, who they finished in second in Philly last year. And they actually played a game at the Miley Cup to even out the schedule, and they won. So Berserkers are an established, very good team. But that Philly Tier 3 is loaded, so they finished in the 8th spot. And the Dinos are down 5-2 at the end of the second period. They go in the third period, and they outscore them 5-1 to win 7-6. Ridiculous.
Wow.
Absolutely ridiculous. And then
insane.
They go on to the semis, and they play the Phoenixville Jokers. They're up 2-1 on them, and with 3 seconds left, the Jokers score to tie it up. So they go to overtime, and then they win it in overtime. a goal that will be forever taken away from us because the camera did not get it on video, which is extremely unfortunate. But
Damn it. That is wild.
Yeah.
What an ending.
A 5-goal third period.
Yeah, leading up to the championship. That's insane.
Yeah, I can't imagine how hyped.
I wonder how both teams felt. Yeah, the losers and the winners in those situations. Wow.
Yeah, I feel like if you have a win like that, you can't lose the next game. Like you have so much momentum with you. But yeah, Dinos, they're a Jersey team playing in Philadelphia. They're based out of, I think, more central Jersey, like more Hamilton area.
Yeah, they play a lot of tournaments together too. So I think they pull guys from maybe a couple of different places. Integral Hockey Stick Sales and Repair has been providing ice hockey and ball hockey players with the best quality hockey sticks at bargain prices for over a decade. As ball hockey has become much more competitive over the years, we understand there is a growing need for reliable sticks that help enhance the quality of players' shots and stick handling. Ball hockey players can now purchase the top models of Bauer, CCM, and Warrior Pro Stock sticks for up to 70% off retail prices. Integral Hockey Stick Sales and Repair has now saved hockey players throughout North America in excess of $27 million on stick costs. Integral Hockey's patented repair process is the only repair in the world that brings the stick back to like-new condition, where even ex-NHLers cannot tell the stick was ever broken. Integral Hockey is so confident in their system they offer a lifetime warranty on all repairs. Try it once and you'll never want to pay retail prices ever again.
Yeah, they had a really good season, and they definitely deserve to be in that final. And they're playing against the Delco Devils, and the Devils are another team. They were down 2-0 in their semifinal to the Moonshiners, South Philly Moonshiners. They had been second, third. I mean, the Devils were the same area, like between second and third, like all season. These teams were kind of back and forth in the standings, and they're down 2-0. And then I remember I had the game on my TV. They were live streaming them. And I walked away from the TV for like 2 minutes, and I came back, and the Devils were up 3-2. And they scored 3 goals in like 51 seconds to take the lead in that game, and they won 4-2. So it was just, I guess, a couple bad shifts for the Moonshiners, and the Devils took advantage of it and going to the Cup, going to the finals. And that final is this weekend coming up, and it's a best-of-3 series. So, and that has some pretty big implications because in Tier 3, we've got 9 teams, so the schedule's uneven, and the Philly runner-up is the only runner-up that'll be playing at the Milek Cup. So because of that, they have to play a 4th preliminary game to even out the schedule. So they'll play 1 Friday, 3 Saturday, and then they'll have playoffs on Sunday. So I've asked the other tier 3 teams just be like, hey, if you want that extra game, you can have it. And everybody's like, no, we don't want it. We want to rest our legs. So that whoever loses that series is gonna, have that, I guess, burden of that extra game they have to play. But yeah. And then now moving on to Carolina, the Raleigh Squall are coming to the Milek Cup. They knocked off the Tier 3 Milek Cup champion Queen City Crowns from last year in the championship. They beat them 3-2 in both games. They're on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch a game about the NBHL, watch those games. They are just such good games, back and forth, clean games, good energy. Like it's exactly what we want playoff hockey to be. And that Squall team, like they really loaded up this year. They picked up some, the Raleigh teams kind of shifted their rosters around a little bit, and that Squall team ended up improving significantly in the offseason, and they're good. They're really, really good. And, I think that they liked seeing the Squall or the Crowns win the Milek Cup to represent Carolina, but I think deep down they're like, I wish that was us. So
yeah. Will they bring a team bus? Will they bring a team bus is the question that we're all wondering. But yeah, no, the Crowns had a great story last year. Sad to see them go, but always happy to bring in new teams. So good luck to the Squall.
To my knowledge, they will not be bringing a team bus, but
Mistake.
Maybe we'll make a push.
Teams that bring a bus win the Milek Cup 100% of the time in Tier 3, so.
Yeah, can't argue facts. I mean. And then the other Tier 3 team that's qualified is the Savage Ogopogos. And I'm just pumped we have a team called the Ogopogos at the Milek Cup. it'll be cool if they get to the finals. And I don't know, just hearing the announcers say it, and hearing Daniel
I was gonna say
Wilson say
how many
Daniel
people are gonna butcher that name when they see it on the scoreboard or whatever. Yeah.
They beat the Bethesda Blazers 5-2 in the final. Smaller division, only 3 teams. They started it off, and we're pretty confident that division's going to grow next year. And small division, and the roster's pretty small too. They've only got about 15 to 16 players on the roster. I know they have some injuries too. So, and speaking with them, we added some new rules for the Miley Cup this year, and as we said before, we reevaluate the rule book, and a couple of teams said, hey, we came here with 12 players, 13 players. Like, it was fun, but like we knew we didn't really have a chance to win because it's just not enough people to last all those games. So we added a rule where teams, under very specific guidelines, can bring non-rostered players to fill out their roster to a certain amount of players, just to make sure teams can at least have, close to 3 lines and be competitive the entire weekend. It's not like a tier 3 team can bring a tier 1 player or anything like that. Like, it's very strict on who can and cannot play. But one change that we made, and the other change that we made for rosters, was that teams can bring a second goalie if they only have one on the roster. And again, you can't bring like a superstar goalie and have them take over your weekend. That second goalie is limited to 1 game in prelims and 1 game in playoffs at most. But again, it's a way to give your starter a rest and, keep the legs fresh to play longer into the day on Sunday. So, but yeah, Ogopogos are probably the only team so far I've heard that's going to be utilizing that rule. Everybody else has been, we've got 18, we've got 19, we've got 21. Like, they've got their full rosters coming here. So, but yeah, I mean, they had a dominant regular season. Their captain's Chris Thorpe, who runs that division. He also played last year for the Maryland Spark. So he's been to the Miley Cup. He's going to prep his team. They know what to expect. And it'll be interesting to see like what this division brings to the table, because I think it's kind of a wild card for us, because they're, an area that I haven't really played for teams from Maryland before. So me personally, I don't really know what the skill set is, but we'll size them up here and see how they compete. So that's all the teams that have made it so far. And I think this weekend and next, we pretty much fill out the rest. So the next podcast will pretty much just be us talking about all the teams that made the Miley Cup. I think that's all we have to talk about. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then we'll do a quick dive through the playoffs that are still ongoing. And in Mass Tier 1, we've got the semifinals going on. Owls versus the Terriers. Seabass versus the Stars. The Owls are the number 1 seed. They're playing the Terriers, who were the 5 seed, and they matched up against the Boston Blackhawks, who were they finished as the 4 seed last year, but ended up winning the division. And the Terriers lost game 1, then won games 2 and 3 to advance to the semifinals. Then they played the Owls and took them into double overtime, their first game. And ultimately, obviously, did not win. But this Terriers team is, another team that's getting hot at the right time, and they looked very good in their playoff game on Monday night. And I'm sure games 2 and possibly 3 will not be fun for the Owls, because the Terriers, they look good. And then we got the other series is the Seabass, Central Mass Seabass, and the Leominster Stars. Stars finished as the 2 seed, Seabass finished as the 3, and they haven't played game 1 yet. So we'll see what happens this weekend with them. But these are 2 teams that have, the Stars are a lot of the players from the Crooks. They've been to the Miley Cup before. The Seabass, they're a team that brought a short roster to the Miley Cup at our 2021 tournament, but they have players who have been here before. And it'll be a very good battle. Those are 2 very, very skilled teams that have, there's no weak spots on those rosters. So this weekend we'll determine who makes the Miley Cup from this division. So we'll have more info on that early next week. But semifinals in Mass. Pittsburgh, we're starting at the same spot. Semifinals right off the bat. Had 5 teams there. Pioneers, who lost in the Miley Cup finals last year in 2021, were the team that didn't qualify for the playoffs. And we've got the Showstoppers, who have been just an offensive powerhouse this season. I mean, they won a game last weekend, 11-7, which, I
don't think I've seen a scoreline like that.
I don't know that we've ever had an 18-goal game in this league. Like, I can't imagine that's happened. That was against the Warbirds, but that's enough. They're playing in the playoffs. They've got the Penn Hills Battalion, who went to the Milat Cup last year in place of the Showstoppers, who were not able to make the tournament. And right now, the Showstoppers, they played them twice and beat them both times, 12-2 goal differential versus Battalion. So they've had a pretty dominant showing versus them so far. But like we've seen already, playoffs, anything can happen. And, Battalion, like I said, they've been to the Milat Cup. They know what to expect. They know what it takes to get there. So
we're always waiting on Pittsburgh and Mass. Come on, guys, get it together. Yeah, it's all good.
Other series is the Imperium and the Warbirds. Imperium, we've talked about them probably more than any other team in the NBHL because they have won both Tier 1 championships and finished as the 2 seed, had another very good regular season, and they're playing the Warbirds, who are the 3 seed. Imperium are 2-0 against them, scored 9 goals against them in 2 games. So they're the favorite, I'd say, going into that. But this Warbirds team has pulled off some upsets. They gave the Showstoppers their only loss of the season this year. And, the Imperium, I remember last year in the playoffs, I think they played Battalion first round, and they beat them by like 5 goals in both games. Like, they really came to play. And they might be a team similar to the Dogs, where during the regular season, they're just, chipping away, and then they get to the playoffs, and they're like, all right, let's make this count here. So, definitely a chance for Imperium to come back to the Milat Cup to defend their title. But, like I said, Pittsburgh this weekend, we won't know. Actually, we will know. We'll know next week who comes to the Milat Cup from Pittsburgh.
They're playing 2 games each, I think, right?
Yeah, they usually do 2 on the weekend, and if it forces the games 3, they'll do 1 during the week.
Right.
So this time next week, we should know who's in the Milat Cup for all of Tier 1. And then we'll go to women's tier now. So the DC Divas, they got the 1 seed. Their playoff is going to be this week, and I think we just talked about it a little bit. But the interesting development is Maxie Weiss. She's the goalie for the Lady Bing Blossoms. She's also the goalie for the Savage Ogapogos. So that could be an interesting story where I don't think we've had a player qualify for 2 teams at the Milat Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it can only happen in women's, and I don't remember.
I mean, we only had last year, so
I don't think not that I know of.
There might have been. Yeah, I can't think of any. So it's a new scenario, especially with it being goalie too. Makes things a little more complicated, but we do have that goalie rule. So I can imagine that if the Bing Blossoms were to also make the Milat Cup, they would probably want to bring it back up, and the Ogapogos probably would too. To
keep or she'll just play 6 games on Saturday or whatever.
I've seen goalies do crazier things, but if you're trying to win the Milat Cup in either division, you want to get some extra rest.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see who wins that this weekend. Pittsburgh women's, we won't know that until their championship is the 27th of August. They're pushed back a little bit just because they've been weekly all season long, but they're now taking a pretty big gap for teams the players have been committed to other things. They've got, this weekend, there's a lot of players involved with the USA Ball Hockey Future Stars tournament in Buffalo. Weekend following, Cool Hockey Event is hosting their tournament in Nashville, and they've got a lot of players playing in that. So they're taking those 2 weekends off, and they'll play on the 27th, and they'll have semis. That'll be, 1 game each, and the finals will be a best of 3. So Pittsburgh, we won't know for a little bit. Mass women's, we will know also this weekend. The Blaze, they finished at the top. We've talked about them a lot on this podcast. They had a really, really good season. And the Wild, who won the Women's Milat Cup last year, finished in 5th. So they've got a 3-game path to win in that division. They've got their work cut out for them. But that's a good team. They're a very good team. They have, they've had some changes for sure, like all the women's teams have, but they've got a lot of their core players back, and I know they want to come back. So we'll see. And that could be another situation where we have a player playing women's and the Milat Cup, because Alyssa LeCure is on the Wild, and she's also on the Mass Vengeance. So she is on 2 squads as well. So another thing that can happen. And as a runner, that's going to be that's a long, long weekend. But, We'll see who wins it out there. Moving on to Tier 2 here, too. We have New England Tier 2, which was just featured on our live stream. We had the Minutemen pull off a sweep of the Rhode Island Raging Goats, beat them 2-0. Game 1 was either a single overtime or double overtime win. And then we've got the South Coast Blue Devils and the South Coast Chargers tied 1-1. Opening game of that series was a 3 overtime win. Their goalie, Jason Roca, was outrageously good. And we posted a highlight of his on Tuesday where he's stacked his pads to make a ridiculous save. And they got game 3 coming up. And like you said, Gianni, goalies can win you a tournament or win you a playoff series. And this Blue Devils team, they've got one of the best in the game with Roca and that.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, is that the longest game in NBHL history, 3 overtimes? If it's not, it's got to be at least top 3.
I can't think off of one off the top of my head longer, but it's possible.
Well, I'm sure if there is one that was longer, there's someone who probably played in it that's listening to this podcast right now. So feel free to correct us.
Yes, let us know.
Will the Chargers defend their title?
I know.
Will they make it to the Cup? Find out next.
Philly Tier 2, we've got the Heat and the Purge in the final. The Purge beat the Demons 5-4, which is the Delco Devils' unofficial affiliate in Tier 2. Beat them, I think, 5-4 to clinch that spot. And the defending champion, Philadelphia Heat, they beat the Code Red 4-0 to get to the final. So Heat, defending champs, Purge, new kids on the block who have been first place all season long. They've been great. So that'll be a fun one, and that'll be a best-of-3 series that we'll see the champion of this weekend. Pittsburgh Tier 2, just starting their playoffs, and they've got their quarterfinal round with single elimination, which could lead to some upsets with only one game. I mean, we saw the Jays beat the Space Pirates in Game 1 in South Jersey, and the Space Pirates won Games 2 and 3 to advance to the semifinals there and now. But we've got the Bantams, number 1 seed, playing the Bandits, the 8 seed. We've got the Militia, the defending champs, playing the Warlocks, the 7 seed. The Revenge and the Blitz battle the new teams in the 3-6 matchup. And the Apocalypse versus the Magic in the 4-5. So one game, you never know what can happen.
Did the Bantams make it last year to the Cup?
Yeah. They were
they
were runner-up last year.
Okay. I thought I was going to say they were pretty good last year, I remember, and to see them as the 1 seed is not that surprising to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, Bantams last year came to the Miley Cup. They lost pretty early on Sunday. I forget who they lost to. But Militia lost in the semis to the Chargers. But that Tier 2 got a lot stronger. I think it's PJ Biaghetti on the Apocalypse has like 17 goals or something. They call him Mr. Tier 2 down in Pittsburgh. But I think he's going to be getting a call up next year.
Yep, 17 goals, 7 assists. Absurd.
So yeah, they start this weekend. South Jersey Tier 2, we've got Space Pirates Chiefs, which if you told me the Game 1 was going to be a 1-0 game, I would have told you you're insane.
Yeah, I talked to Paul, the goalie for the Space Pirates. They lost that game 1-0, and he said, if you told me before the game that we were only going to let up 1 goal to the Chiefs, we would have thought that meant that we win the game every single time. It's 2 really high-powered offenses, and to see that end in a 1-0 game, it's playoff hockey for you.
Yeah, and then on the other side of that is the Majestic is the 1 seed versus the Chimney Fish 5 seed, and that game went to double OT, and Jake Feliciano, who we featured on a few highlights this year, he's had some pretty sick goals. Beat a defenseman at the blue line and beat the goalie for the game winner. So Chimney Fish are up 1-0, and that Chimney Fish team is they've just got bodies that can run, that can play. They're smart. They've got a very good goalie. Like they've been all season, I feel like they've flown a little bit under the radar, but not rightfully so. Like they've been good all season long. I mean, that Majestic win justifies it. I mean, I think they were like a win away from being the 1 seed at that last weekend of the season. And I think they lost to Majestic to not get that 1 seed. So,
and that game was a 0-0 game through 5 periods. So, like, again, just very low scoring, like the Chiefs and Space Pirates. So, I don't know. I could see that their next game just being completely different, and there's going to be a ton of goals, but we'll see.
And then the last playoffs to touch up on here is Indiana Tier 3. So we'll see our first Indiana Division representation at the Milet Cup. We've got the Columbus Counts. They are undefeated, have been dominant, clear-cut favorite to win that division. But as the seasons progress, and we've talked about it before, these other teams are getting closer to them and putting up, closer scores. So 1-game playoffs, you never know what can happen. And we will get an Indiana team or Ohio team, I guess, in the Milet
Maybe
Cup.
they'll take a bus. Who knows?
Yeah, they could take a bus. And then I guess the true last division to touch up on is DC Tier 2. And they've had some scheduling conflicts, so they've been kind of waiting for this final game to happen. But their final is not going to happen until, I believe it's the weekend of the 20th. And it's kind of an unusual scenario for a final because they are starting now their fall. I don't know if it's considered summer. I guess summer into fall season. And the third week of that season, the Sparks play the Plague. So they're going to count that game as the NBHL championship game. And it's going to count as a game towards their fall season or that summer fall season.
That's
too.
Wild.
Yeah, definitely a new one for us. But yeah, they're like, is that fine? I'm like, I don't care. As long as the game, is played with the NBHL rosters, it can count for whatever else outside of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're still waiting on that one. But that wraps everything up with the teams. And no interview this week. No interview. We were a little sidetracked last week. We didn't get to one.
We'll kick it to the ad read is what we'll do. Are you guys ready to get bucked up? If you're looking for something to give you the energy, focus, and endurance you need to conquer your next game or workout, then Bucked Up is for you. Bucked Up just released a new line of endurance products perfect for NBHL players and fans alike. Let me just mention a few. Go all out with Bucked Up's new full bore product, which focuses on blood flow and bringing more oxygen to the lungs and muscles. It also has other innovative clinical ingredients which will give you the stamina and power to push through the pain in practice, during workouts, and in games. Bucked Up's long range contains a proper balance of carbohydrates and sodium to refuel your body during your exercise, and Bucked Up IV will also restore the fluids and electrolytes that you sweat out during games. Also, be sure to check out Bucked Up's #1 best-selling pre-workout products to help take your training sessions to the next level. Head over to buckedup.com and use promo code NBHL20 to get 20% off your next order. Once again, that's promo code NBHL20 to get 20% off your next order.
All right, now it's time for the Q&A. We posted a story on Instagram for you to ask us questions that we will now answer on the podcast. So the first one was from Casey Cormier, NBHL staff member. Great question, Casey. What's the farthest a staff member has made it to the Milet Cup? Or in the Milet Cup, I guess.
It's you.
It's me. I've played with the Dogs in 21, the first Milet Cup ever, lost in the semis. Yeah.
And then Melissa Sweeney, our women's commissioner, wasn't NBHL staff at this point, but she was
She ran the division.
yeah, she ran the division, true. And if we're counting division directors though, we have to go back and do some research. I think
that
there's a
doesn't
few.
count. Yeah.
But as NBHL women's commissioner, she went there. She was, women's year's 4 teams, so everybody's in the semis, but she played in the semis last year with the Deck Queens. And she's coming back this year too. So,
So I'm the only commish that has not played the Milet Cup yet.
yeah, it's so embarrassing.
So Tubes will be, getting ready for next year, make another run at it.
Revamped. Yeah.
And then this year we got Casey playing.
Same Casey Cormier playing for the Warriors.
So Casey,
Maybe he'll go deep.
Yeah, you can set the record here, Casey. You have to get to the finals. So Warriors, they go to the finals.
We'll see.
Now you can be the answer to this question.
Yeah.
Casey just wanted us to talk about him here, I think.
Yeah.
Good move, Casey. That's smart.
You got a lot of mentions this time. Next question was, if I was not registered for 2023, can I still register and play for Draftville? This was from WCS29. I don't know who you are, but great question.
Yeah, you can. Now you can.
Now
We
you
made that
can.
a rule. We talked about it a little earlier, but yeah. come
Yeah, we'll
join us.
definitely have some, information out about that, so everyone's aware that that is the case. But yep, we are opening it up. Our next question is from Sophia Herbert, NBHL writer. What a legend! Always putting out articles on the website. Thank you, Sophia. She said, "Where did the idea for Draftville come from?"
Well, I guess it came. We've probably discussed some level of this on this podcast, but it came like because we want to host tournaments. We want to have NBHL tournaments, but we don't want to take away from the Mila Cup. So we had to come up with a different format, and this draft format allows people to come play at these events, meet people in the NBHL, and you don't have to bring a whole NBHL team, and it helps. If you're on the West Coast, if you're in Florida, and you've only got a couple buddies or a couple friends that you can come up with, then you don't have to bring a full team. You can just come up with a group of 3 or 4 and get everybody involved. It's it's co-eds. We've got men and women playing in this, and we just wanted something different that can blend everybody together, and then at the same time give players the opportunity to learn from one another from different areas and different skill levels, and just kind of blend some people together and make it more of a fun tournament. Obviously, that people are gonna want to win, but yeah, it just came through a lot of brainstorming, I think, on how we
floated, ton of different formats and just kind of landed on this one, I guess.
And it was a sick pun for the name too.
Yes.
That was probably the main reason. If we couldn't think of a cool name, we would have just scrapped it.
Yeah, we wouldn't have even considered having the tournament.
But the next one that we have in like Chicago, what's that going to be called? Like Draft Chicago?
Yeah, I guess draft Chicago. That sounds great.
So we'll have to get creative if we end up moving it around, but we'll see. Yeah. We're not there yet. All right. Great question. Next one is from the Nern Burglar. He said, where is the 35 plus division?
It's Kevin Nerney.
Yeah.
Dust Bunnies, legend.
Former Dust Bunny.
And EBHL League.
Mighty Pint, maybe? I think.
Yeah. Mighty Pints. I think he was Hounds last year too.
True.
Yeah.
Was a Hound, yep.
Yep. But I don't know. I don't know where the 35 plus division's going. We I think I would consider doing a Masters division. We just need we need a commissioner to take the lead on it, and some people that want to take initiative and make it happen. But if there's a group of people that want to make an NBHL national and NBHL, like I'd say 40 plus maybe is a better number. But like a Masters type division, we'd be open to it. So
I was gonna say we have a lot of 35-year-olds playing in tier 2, tier 3, even tier 1. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question though. Something to think about.
Let us know if you're interested. We'll think about it.
All right, and that does it with the Q&A. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Good luck in playoffs. Good luck with your games. Hopefully you make the Mile Cup. If you don't, come out next year and maybe you'll make it. Maybe not. I don't know where I'm going with this, but thanks for listening. And just make sure you guys follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We post those on all 3 platforms, and we appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. I don't know where I heard it, but I keep parroting that information. So if it's not true, then I've given people a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, Ty, keep that one off the podcast. Gianni could just be straight up lying to everyone.